The morning light settles here with a weightless quality, resting upon the gray gravel of the path as if it has nowhere else to be. There is a profound sense of containment within these few square meters, where the boundary of the stone wall meets the upright precision of the wooden fence. The air is perfectly still, caught in the small gap between the street and the home. One can look at the stone bench and feel the coolness of the surface without needing to touch it. It is a space that exists for the sake of existing, tucked away from the momentum of the world outside. The silver birch holds its leaves in a state of suspended animation, casting shadows that do not flicker or dance, but simply remain. In this enclosure, the scale of the world shrinks to the distance between the gate and the door. It is a quiet transition, a pause that has been built into the architecture of the day. Every pebble seems to have found its permanent place, undisturbed by footsteps or wind. The light continues its slow, unhurried crawl across the masonry, marking time in a way that feels irrelevant to the clock. It is enough to simply observe the way the shadows lean against the house, grounding the garden in a deep, residential silence that feels ancient despite its smallness. There is no demand for attention here, only the steady, silent offer of a place to stand and breathe before the threshold. The moss has claimed the brickwork with a slow, green persistence, softening the edges of the home until they merge with the life of the garden. Here, the scale is intimate, focused on the textures of clay and stone that have weathered seasons of rain and quiet. The window glass acts as a dark mirror, pulling the greenery of the ferns into the interior of the house, creating a layer of depth that feels both private and vast. There is no sound captured in this reflection, only the visual echo of soft leaves in the gray sky above. The terracotta pot, empty and seasoned by the elements, stands as a quiet monument to the passage of time in a small space. The light is even and gentle, casting no harsh shadows, allowing the subtle gradients of the moss and the brick to speak for themselves. This corner of the yard is a world unto itself, bounded by the glass and the earth. It is a place where the stillness is so thick it feels tactile, a physical presence that wraps around the edges of the building. The garden does not strive for grand highlights or dramatic displays. It finds its beauty in the damp corners and the quiet intersections of the man-made and the organic. Everything is at rest, held in the soft grip of an afternoon that refuses to rush. To look at this ledge is to understand the value of the small, the overlooked, and the silent. From the elevated perspective of the porch, the courtyard reveals its geometry as a series of nested enclosures. The wooden slats rise up to meet the sky, creating a vertical boundary that locks the garden into a private, sun-drenched square. In the center, the stone basin holds the sky in a circle of perfectly still water, a mirror for the blue above that remains undisturbed by even the slightest ripple. The light of the late afternoon stretches across the floorboards and the stones, long and golden, highlighting the grain of the wood and the rough texture of the basin. There is a profound sense of isolation here, not of loneliness, but of a curated peace that has been carefully carved out of the surrounding neighborhood. The garden is a vessel for light and silence. The shadows are long and crisp, providing a rhythmic contrast to the warmth of the illuminated surfaces. Nothing moves within this frame. The plants along the perimeter are shadows themselves, dark shapes that frame the brilliance of the central basin. It is a landscape of layers, each one contributing to the feeling of being entirely removed from the outside world while remaining only steps from the front door. The air feels heavy with the scent of sun-warmed wood and damp stone, a quiet atmosphere that settles into the bones. It is a space designed for the eyes to rest and the mind to slow down to the pace of the lengthening shadows. The side garden is a secret corridor of green, a narrow ribbon of life held between the solid brick of the home and the tall, shielding fence. The slate pavers provide a rhythmic sequence, leading the eye deep into the shade where the light loses its heat and becomes a soft, dappled presence. Here, the broad leaves of the plants overlap in a silent hierarchy of texture, their deep greens drinking in the cool air of the enclosure. The mulch below is dark and damp, muffling any imagined footfall and grounding the space in a rich, earthy silence. There is a sense of being underground even while standing under the sky, a subterranean quiet that clings to the mossy brickwork and the undersides of the foliage. The perspective is tight, emphasizing the verticality of the surrounding walls and the intimacy of the path. This is a place of transit that has been transformed into a destination of stillness. The light filters through unseen branches above, creating a shifting tapestry of brightness on the slate that changes so slowly it appears static. Every element here is chosen for its ability to thrive in the margins, to turn a narrow gap into a lush, quiet sanctuary. The silence is absolute, protected by the density of the growth and the height of the wood. It is a passage that does not lead to a grand opening, but rather into a deeper state of observation and presence within the small confines of the residential lot. The twilight has turned the garden into a study of blue and gold. The bistro chairs, thin and elegant in their metal frames, sit as silent witnesses to the ending of the day, their empty seats suggesting a departure that happened hours ago. Around them, the boxwood hedge creates a crisp green border, a miniature wall that defines this space as a room without a ceiling. From the house, a warm glow spills out through the window, casting a soft amber light across the patio stones and the surface of the table. This light does not reach the edges of the garden, leaving the perimeter in a gentle, indigo shadow. There is a profound stillness in the air, the kind of quiet that follows the setting of the sun when the world seems to hold its breath. The garden feels deeply connected to the home, an extension of the living room that has drifted outdoors to meet the night. The scale is perfectly residential, a small circle of comfort tucked into the corner of the yard. There is no movement in the leaves or the air. The scene is a fixed point of calm. The contrast between the warm interior light and the cool outdoor air creates a visual tension that is resolved by the utter lack of activity. It is a place of waiting, a domestic landscape that finds its purpose in the moments between events, where the only thing happening is the slow arrival of the dark. The gate stands as a silent sentinel, its wood silvered by years of rain and sun, holding the garden's secrets behind an iron latch that has not been moved. The jasmine vines wrap around the frame in a complex, tangled embrace, their dark green leaves providing a thick texture that obscures the view into the private world beyond. There is a sense of threshold here, a boundary between the public path and the enclosed quiet of the residence. The light is flat and even, characteristic of a cloudy day that refuses to cast shadows, emphasizing the grain of the wood and the cold hardness of the iron. Beyond the gate, the garden is a soft blur of green and gray, a suggestion of a space rather than a clear reality. This lack of focus deepens the sense of mystery and seclusion. The garden is there, but it is not for the eyes of the passerby. The stillness is concentrated in the heavy hinge and the still leaves of the climber. There is no breeze to stir the vines, no hand to lift the latch. It is a moment of total stasis, where the architecture of the garden and the growth of the plants have reached a point of perfect equilibrium. The gate does not invite entry so much as it confirms the existence of a sanctuary, a small, locked-away piece of beauty that requires nothing from the world outside. The silence is built into the timber and the metal, a permanent feature of this residential boundary. The boulder sits at the edge of the gravel circle like an anchor, its massive, unmoving presence grounding the entire garden. Around it, the ornamental grasses stand tall and straight, their thin blades reaching up into the cooling air without a single tremor. The gravel is a uniform pale gray, a field of small stones that have been raked into a state of perfection. The light of the late afternoon hits the side of the stone, revealing the subtle colors of lichen and the deep cracks of its surface. This is a garden of textures rather than colors, a minimalist composition that emphasizes the weight of the stone and the lightness of the grass. The enclosure is felt in the way the grasses create a soft, swaying wall that blocks out the rest of the street, leaving only the sky and this small, stony island. There is a meditative quality to the scene, a sense of curated stillness that feels intentional and deep. The air is empty of sound, the kind of quiet that allows one to imagine the sound of the earth turning. The garden does not ask to be walked through. It asks to be looked at, to be understood as a series of still objects held in a specific arrangement. The transition from the soft grass to the hard stone and the crunch of the gravel is a visual dialogue that requires no words. Everything is in its place, held in the golden grip of the dying light, a small monument to the beauty of the static and the silent. The path to the door is a short, direct journey through a landscape of muted tones and cool air. The bricks are worn, their edges rounded by time, and they lead the eye toward the shadowed entryway where the house begins. On either side, the lavender bushes form soft, gray-green clouds, their scent dormant in the morning chill. The shadows of the eaves stretch across the bricks in sharp, geometric lines, dividing the path into segments of light and dark. This is a garden of routine and return, a small space that is traversed every day but remains a place of quiet beauty. There is no drama here, only the steady presence of the plants and the solid reality of the house. The light is thin and crisp, characteristic of a world just waking up, yet nothing in the garden seems to move. The lavender is a dense, unmoving mass, and the bricks are cold under the morning sky. The sense of enclosure is provided by the house itself and the proximity of the garden to the walls. It is a space that feels lived in but currently empty, a stage set for the arrival of the day that has not yet begun. The silence is deep and residential, the quiet of a neighborhood before the bustle starts. It is a moment of pure, unadorned presence, where the simple alignment of a path and a plant creates a sense of total peace. The birdbath is a small, hollowed-out stone that holds a circle of sky in the center of the yard. The clover at its base is a lush, uniform green, a soft carpet that meets the hard edge of the low iron fence. Floating on the water are a few brown leaves, their presence marking the slow transition of the seasons in a space that otherwise feels timeless. The light is diffused by a heavy layer of clouds, removing all shadows and making the colors appear saturated and deep. There is a sense of a world in miniature here, a tiny ecosystem that is perfectly contained within the iron boundary. The water in the birdbath is a dark, still mirror, reflecting nothing but the gray above. The iron fence with its thin vertical bars creates a sense of protection and enclosure, marking this small patch of green as something special and set apart. No birds come to the water. The scene is one of total abandonment and stillness. The silence is heavy and damp, a physical layer that seems to sit on top of the clover and the stone. It is a quiet corner of a front yard that serves no purpose other than to be a point of rest for the eye. The stillness is absolute, a frozen moment in a small residential garden where the only movement is the slow, invisible evaporation of the water. The boardwalk is a sequence of warm-toned planks that cut a clean line through the exuberant growth of the hostas. The leaves are massive and heart-shaped, overlapping one another in a dense canopy of green that hides the earth below. The path leads toward the shed, which sits in the background as a dark, silent volume, its wood matching the boardwalk in tone and texture. The light is soft and angled, catching the edges of the ferns and the ribs of the hosta leaves, creating a sense of depth and relief. This is a garden that feels like a hidden world, a lush interior space that is entirely enclosed by the house and the fence. The scale is small, the path short, yet the density of the planting makes it feel like a journey. There is no sound here, no wind to stir the heavy leaves, no activity to disturb the sense of deep green quiet. The shed is not a place of work in this moment, but a part of the landscape, a silent anchor at the end of the wooden path. The air is cool and smells of damp earth and wood. The silence is the dominant feature, a thick, protective layer that keeps the outside world at bay. It is a space of perfect enclosure, where the residential boundary is transformed into a sanctuary of stillness and growth, a small front yard turned into a quiet, verdant retreat. The river stones are a collection of grays and tans, their smooth surfaces worn down by water that is no longer there. They sit in a tight, intentional arrangement, a dry riverbed that serves as a permanent landscape within the front yard. Between them, the succulents are small, geometric bursts of life, their thick leaves holding onto the moisture of the morning. The concrete wall behind them is a flat, neutral expanse, a solid boundary that emphasizes the smallness of the garden. A single vine reaches up the wall, its thin stem and few leaves providing a delicate contrast to the heavy masonry. The light is bright and clear, highlighting the textures of the stone and the matte finish of the concrete. There is no movement here, no swaying branches or falling leaves. The scene is a study in mineral stillness, a garden that has been stripped down to its essential elements of stone and light. The sense of enclosure is absolute, provided by the wall and the house, creating a pocket of silence that feels protected from the rest of the world. The air is still, and the shadows are short, marking the early hour of a day that has not yet begun to move. It is a place of quiet focus, where the eye can trace the curve of a stone or the line of a vine without distraction, a small residential space that finds beauty in the static and the silent. The bench is tucked away in the deep shadow of the house, a protected vantage point from which to observe the small square of the lawn. The grass is a vibrant, uniform green, a living carpet that has been trimmed with absolute precision. Beyond the lawn, the boxwood hedge creates a solid, dark green wall, a final boundary that keeps the world at a distance. The light of the afternoon is soft and golden, illuminating the lawn but leaving the bench in a cool, indigo shade. There is a profound sense of domesticity and order here, a garden that is a direct extension of the home's interior. The scale is intimate, a space that can be taken in with a single glance, yet it feels complete and self-contained. There is no activity in the scene. The bench is empty, the lawn is still, and the hedge is a silent barrier. The silence is the quiet of a home in the afternoon, a slow, heavy stillness that settles into the grass and the wood. It is a place for sitting and doing nothing, a curated environment where the only requirement is to exist in the silence. The enclosure is felt in the weight of the eaves and the height of the hedge, a small, private world that is perfectly balanced and utterly still. The lantern sits on the cold stone of the step, its metal frame a dark silhouette against the deepening blue of the twilight. The glass, marked by the fine dust of the garden, catches the last of the light, reflecting a distorted and soft version of the plants that surround it. This is a small, focused detail within the larger garden, a single object that carries a sense of evening and arrival. Around the lantern, the garden is a soft blur of dark shapes, the leaves and stems of the front yard retreating into the shadows. There is no flame inside the lantern, no light to push back the dark, only the quiet presence of the object itself. The stillness is absolute, the air is heavy with the coming night, and the stone step is a solid, unmoving foundation. The sense of enclosure is provided by the house that rises up behind the step and the density of the garden that presses in from the sides. It is a moment of pure, domestic quiet, the kind of silence that exists on a doorstep before a key is turned in a lock. The lantern is a silent observer of the ending day, a small piece of the garden that has been placed with intention and left to wait in the dark. The view through the fence is a privileged glimpse into a private world, a small, sun-drenched sanctuary that is hidden from the street. The single white rose bush is the center of the scene, its pale blossom standing out against the green leaves and the gray gravel of the path. The light is bright and optimistic, the clear light of a morning that has just begun to warm the air. The path is a short, simple line that leads to the side door, a domestic transition that is framed by the flowers and the fence. There is a sense of total seclusion here, a feeling of being inside a space that is entirely removed from the public realm. The fence provides a physical and visual boundary, making the garden feel like a secret room. Nothing moves in the scene. The roses are still, the gravel is undisturbed, and the door is closed. The silence is the quiet of a secret, a soft, protected stillness that is only broken by the visual beauty of the flowers. It is a small, residential garden that has been designed for quiet beauty, a space that finds its purpose in being a private, beautiful transition between the world and the home. The garden is seen here in its entirety, a small, perfectly composed world that is held within the boundary of the stone wall and the gate. The lawn, the paths, the plants, and the objects all come together to form a single, harmonious landscape that is deeply connected to the home. The late afternoon light washes over the scene, casting long, soft shadows and highlighting the various textures of the garden. There is a profound sense of completeness and peace, a feeling that every element has been placed with care and intention. The garden is a space of pause, a residential sanctuary that provides a buffer between the house and the world. There is no movement in the scene, the gate is shut, the leaves are still, and the light is slowly fading. The silence is the dominant feature, a thick, protective layer that wraps around the entire garden and the home. It is a final, comprehensive look at a space designed for quiet beauty, a small, enclosed front yard where nothing is happening and nothing needs to. The garden is a vessel for silence and light, a place of presence and enclosure that offers a moment of total calm in a busy world.